Tired of buying a bunch of different shorts for working out, looking good, and just life in general? Try Bird Dogs. They feel like gym shorts but look like khaki shorts. The ultra-breathable fabric keeps you cool, and the built-in liner is an added layer of support. To top it all off, Bird Dog shorts look so good you can wear them anywhere. Go to birddogs.com/MLB and enter promo code BASEBALL for a free baseball hat with your order. That's birddogs.com/MLB, promo code BASEBALL for a free hat. You won't want to take your Bird Dogs off, we promise you.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit BetterHelp.com/positive to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/positive.
Odyssey and KEYN bring you Concerts in the Park, sponsored by IHOP. Free live music Friday from 8 to 10 in Andover Central Park at the Capitol Federal Amphitheater. That's at 1607 East Central Avenue in Andover. This Friday, it's across the pond. Bring your lawn chairs, blankets, and some extra cash for the food trucks. No coolers allowed. Gates open there at 6:30. Welcome back in. That IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. Jake Valbrock, Tommy Castor, back with you. Back on track, back in the groove, ready to get back to reality here after some travel. And we follow the NBA offseason. So sort of a recap of the latest there. And now to Fred VanVleet, the former Shocker. Really interesting. He turns down the ability to make, I think, 23 or 24 million. It sounds like just about every report I've seen looking like around 30 million annually is what he'll make. What happens with him will be really interesting. So there's been a lot of rumors. It is Hoops Hype has him rumored as a return to Toronto. The Rockets, the Lakers, the Suns would be off the table now, and the Magic. All very interesting fits, I think. If I had to go with my gut, Tommy, I would say that he ends up back in Toronto just because he's been so important to them there. But I think there's some really interesting teams on that list, most notably the Lakers. And, I think stylistically when I think about all of this, the Rockets are sort of rebuilding, the Magic are sort of rebuilding, right? The Suns are off the table. Raptors, I think, again, are most likely, but a team like the Lakers who are close, I think closer, there's a lot of risk with the Lakers because of the age of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but, Reeves stepped up. Would adding a piece like Fred VanVleet be enough for a team like that? Boy, I think it might be. Fred's pacing, his defense, his clutch, all of those things to me, and he's such an elite level passer. Well, that seems like that could be a really good fit there to me.
I think that it would be a lot of fun to watch, and I think VanVleet would thrive in LA. I think the only issue would be, is there anybody on that Lakers roster that they would be willing to give up that Toronto would want to get back? Like, that's going to be the
Russell
big issue.
Is the guy that I've seen
that's
that would
the guy,
have to come back.
Does
Toronto has to want
Russell?
Him. Right, yeah.
Right,
Toronto
that's
has
the big
to want
thing.
him.
So I don't know if that is realistic or not. You could be looking potentially at a sign and trade to get VanVleet to LA. I just don't know what the Raptors are really looking for. And that's kind of been the X factor in all of this, right? Is that we really don't know what's happening with Toronto. They've been pretty tight-lipped, I think, about what their plans are. Do they want? I mean, clearly they would want Fred VanVleet back, a player of that caliber, but they haven't really, as far as I can tell, been vocal about their desire to try to sign him to a deal and bring him back. Nor have they really talked much about other options outside of Fred VanVleet if he ends up leaving Toronto. So I don't know. I don't know what Toronto's intentions are during this offseason and how hard they would want to try to work at re-signing Fred VanVleet. But if they don't, and they're, wanting to try to trade him to get some value back, I think the Lakers would be a fun fit. I just don't know if there's anybody outside of D'Angelo Russell on that roster that they would want.
I think it'd be the most fun fit. And Toronto's got a lot of these guys are going to be free agents. I think decisions have to come from Siakam and Anunoby. So, they're sort of in that mode, too. Like, what do we do here? Do we rebuild? Do we run it back? Like, I don't know. They've got a tough spot. And you kind of have to go all in one way or the other, I would think, which is why Fred's may move a little bit slowly. Boy, the Lakers would be a fun fit. And I think that's probably the most fun destination for Fred. He'd get, matched up with good young players in either Houston or Orlando, which would probably be a good fit for him. He's got a title. He's an all-star. He's got all those things going for him. I don't know. It'll be hard. And look, the money's going to matter here in Toronto. I would imagine Toronto, if anybody goes super big on it, it would be Toronto. Yeah. But I don't know. His will be, sort of that first big domino of free agency. We got the first big domino in the Beal trade. And as always, it's going to get wild in the NBA offseason. It's just what part of that does Fred have? I don't know. And it'll be fun to watch. It's so cool to see it. The other thing, and they didn't play together at Wichita State, but Austin Reeves obviously there in LA, that would make that fun. The Lakers are a team. So we talked about some of the contenders. Are the Lakers a team that could become a contender next year? I think that they still are. I think they looked close and probably, if we're being honest, the closest to Denver, right? Even Miami. The Lakers, that wasn't a long series, but it was tight. I think if they, and it's just like, would I bet on it? No, because you got to bet on health, and that always seems like a silly thing to do. But whether it's bringing in a guy like Fred VanVleet or maybe just having a good draft, right? Just get a couple of role players, whatever it is. Like, and I don't know that anymore, like, that's a destination stop. Like, do you think anybody in free agency is like, oh, I'll just go play for less money to go try to win a title in L.A.? Like, I don't think that's happening. So I don't know. They'll have to get a little lucky and do a really good job. But I think we could still consider them contenders. I think they're still in the mix for sure because I think they may have been the closest anyway.
Yeah, I think that they are, but I think that if the playoffs tell us anything, it's that they've got to have another piece. They've got to have another piece to try to get over that hump. And it goes back to what we talked about in the first segment about how clearly the Nuggets, as the NBA champions, are the class of that conference. They're the class of the NBA in general, but, especially that Western Conference. And so we saw it with the Suns and the Bradley Beal trade. We're probably going to see it with the Lakers. We're going to see it with other teams in that conference. What can they do? What pieces can the Lakers add to try to bring down Denver? That's ultimately the $1 million question.
There's a lot of moving parts. It'll be a wild off season. I just, again, like back to our original point in the line, I just don't know if I think anybody's going to do anything for me that knocks Denver off that perch. I think Denver is that good. I think, watch Philadelphia, watch the Lakers, watch Milwaukee. Phoenix made its move, and that's probably what we're going to be looking at as the favorites going into next year. And look, the NBA showed us the last few years. It's not like foregone conclusions are not anywhere near the NBA right now. You've got to be able to get there. But Fred VanVleet's will be the most interesting. I always say watch Chicago with him too, by the way, because he's from Rockford, Illinois, and loves his time there. But I have not heard that rumor anywhere. It's just sort of like one I keep thinking to myself to keep an eye on. Speaking of Fred, have you seen, and I don't know that we've talked about this, maybe you and Paul have, as we sort of talk about pro basketball. Have you seen the roster coming back for this reunion at the TBT, which is coming up probably faster than we even realize for this celebration of the Final Four? You've got Fred, you've got Ron, you've got Evan Wessel's going to be there. Takeo Cotton's going to be there. Clay Anthony Early is confirmed. It's going to be awesome. We don't know about Greg Marshall. We don't know how that will play out. That's all just sort of out there and up in the air because this won't have anything to do, technically speaking, with the school. But this looks like it's going to be pretty cool and a pretty fun little thing for Shockers fans going on.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that 10 years ago was when they went to the Final Four. We're over 10 years, now from that happening, and just the fact that looking back on it and knowing that, these guys are coming back and the career that Fred VanVleet has had in the NBA, Ron Baker spent time in the NBA, Cle Anthony Early spent time in the NBA, and getting all these guys back together for a celebration of that. I guess, there's really no other word than just magical Final Four run that they had back in 2013. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be really cool for Wichita to be able to see these guys all come back together.
So and just roster notes, by the way, because you and I haven't talked TBT all the time. KU fans, I think, have got to be excited now about this group coming in. Dedrick Lawson, Devon Dotson is on board. Jamari Traylor's one of my favorite Jayhawks. He's on board. Marcus Garrett's on board. Keith Langford. Marcus Morris is the coach. Markieff Morris is another coach. Thomas Robinson's on this roster. Wayne Selden's on this roster. Tyshawn Taylor's on. I mean, Tommy, of all the, KU teams that we've seen, we haven't seen a ton of them. I mean, this is like top notch, right? This is, if you're a KU fan, which you're a KU fan, this is about as good as it's getting for this deal.
What I love about TBT also is that the longer it goes on, year in and year out, you get bigger named players every single year, it seems like. And, I think some of that comes down to just the credibility of this tournament growing year after year. And the fact that, by the way, there's a major cash prize, for the winner of the tournament. And so we've seen teams that, we know, and that, players that we know in this area have made runs in TBT before. The fact that there's a regional that's being hosted in Wichita, that definitely adds to it as well. That's a fun roster for KU fans for sure. And there's a lot of KU fans in this city. And so I think that, knowing that, that there's just, I would imagine as we get closer to TBT, that excitement will continue to grow.
July 19th through 25th. So I just kind of rattled off some of the teams there. We only know in Wichita, I'm pretty sure, that we've got Wichita State in the Mass Street. So I rattled off that roster. Now, we know that here's the thing about the Aftershocks is they've gotten really good at this tournament, right? So if I tell you that KU roster, which we did it, and then now we move to the Aftershocks roster, and Connor Frankamp will be the anchor there, but they announced that Altery Gilbert's going to play. Asborn Midgard's going to play, which will be, I think, really interesting. Darrell Willis is back. You've got Samaje Haynes-Jones and Marcus McDuffie back, who've been a big part of, those winning teams. Trey Wade, that will be interesting. He's young and fresh and all of these things. Then they've got sprinkled in a couple other players that you probably recognize or whatever, but roster to roster with the Aftershock success that you've seen the last couple of years, if we're, and I don't know if we'll have betting lines on this over at BetMGM when the time comes. I bet we might, and that'll be interesting because you've got the Elam ending. But which roster would you be more comfortable with?
Oh, between the Aftershocks and the Mass Street team?
Yes.
Oh man, shoot, probably the Mass Street team. I think both rosters are going to be really good. And the Aftershocks, like you mentioned, have a history of doing really well in this tournament. Man, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think from just a fan perspective, man, I'm excited to see, the old dogs like Keith Langford and Tyshawn Taylor, Thomas Robinson on the roster for Mass Street. And then you've got the Morris twins coaching it. From a nostalgia point of view, that's really fun for me.
It's new.
Man,
it's new also.
Sure.
That matters.
Sure. But as you mentioned, that experience that the Aftershocks have in this tournament, that might push them over the edge too. That might be a toss-up for me. Yeah.
I think it does. I think it pushes them over the edge because you've got Connor and Marcus, and, those two have anchored it for a while. They just experience matters in this tournament. We know that now. That Mass Street roster is way better than I thought it would be, though. And I'm sure that has to do with the Morris twins being a part of it. And, when those guys make that call, it's probably a little bit easier. But, man, I can't wait. We're a little less than a month away from it. I don't know. I hope K-State can still get a team together. Oklahoma State has always been fun when they can get a team together. It's fun. It's one of these things. This is always strange. When I see the success of this TBT every year in Wichita, and it's going to be even bigger probably than ever with KU there again this year, and this KU roster is loaded, it makes me want the NCAA tournament back so badly. Like, I hate that we missed that year with COVID and we just keep having to wait for that NCAA tournament because it's going to be awesome again. That was, as we've been here, like a couple of the things that have caught me off guard is like some of the great sports moments physically in Wichita have been these TBT tournaments, and that year at the NCAA tournament might top everything. And I think it's coming again. I think it's coming again and will be just as awesome again. But when I see this, it's not exhibition. When I see this pro tournament come in every summer, it's like, man, that NCAA tournament's got to get back here. It's going to be so awesome.
Yeah. Wasn't it, refresh my memory, it was Michigan that had the buzzer beater when the tournament was here in Wichita? Was that right?
Yeah. But you had some really great fan bases. You had Houston here. Mm-hmm. You had San Diego State here, Michigan, and Kansas. And I think there's one other, and I don't remember who it was. But and then you had the smaller schools. But man, I just like, it's such a festival, and it's so amazing, and the timing was unfortunate, but we will get it back. And it's always, it always does sort of depend on like, well, okay, you get, the Wichita bid that year. Like, are they going to be good enough to get that bid that year? Which of course they were the last time, and that makes a big difference. But it is basketball crazy, and I'm so excited about basketball too, as we have summer camps sort of starting for the Shockers and work being done, and we're trying to get Paul Mills in here sometime in the next few weeks as they work through their summer schedule to get an update on how that's going. We'll have Kevin Saul in this week. Maybe he's been able to catch a couple practices. We can get his insight on this new roster. But it is basketball season. And look, we get slow in the summer, obviously. The TBT sort of changes that up a little bit. I don't know that we've had a better collection of talent in a TBT that we care about, obviously, than this, what we've got shaping up this year. And, I hope that K-State, who's put together some pretty exciting, talented rosters people can get excited for, can do that too. Again, I think we've only heard that Kansas and Wichita State are in this regional so far, and we're a month away now, so that news will probably start dropping pretty soon.
It's tomorrow. I just looked it up. The selection show is tomorrow.
Wait, what is the
YouTube.
Selection show? Is that a new thing they're doing?
So they'll be revealing the full TBT bracket tomorrow at 11 a.m. So right after we're done, it's a live YouTube show hosted by Seth Greenberg and Andrew Zoldan, and they're revealing the entire TBT bracket.
So, okay. So that probably leads me to believe K-State's not going to play. And maybe all those teams have been announced. We just don't know where they're going. But we'll find out tomorrow, I guess. Then it doesn't matter. It's all going to be about Wichita State and KU unless K-State gets in. But if K-State was getting in, we'd know they were coming to Wichita. I'm fairly certain. So probably not. Hey, we're back. It's been a while. Let's give something away. Jad, let's do some HTO coffee cards. So since I've been on all these vacations, we've rolled out 8 new iced coffee flavors over at HTO Wichita East. We only have Coffee East, not at both locations. So go in there. Let's give away a couple of coffee cards, Jad, and we'll let people try that new iced coffee. Let me know what you think. HTO, it's at 127th and 21st. Feeling festive today. We'll have another giveaway coming up in the next hour. A little baseball giveaway. 869-1240 is the number to call. We'll come back. We've got San Diego State news, rumors to get to. I think that's a fascinating topic as you've got a back and forth between them and the Mountain West. Still no deal for the Pac-12, and I don't know what's going to happen now. But a lot more to come here on a Tuesday edition of Sports Daily Albrecht and Caster. We'll be right back.
What you watch depends on what kind of mood you're in. Sometimes you're craving comedies like Friends or South Park, and sometimes you're more into dramas like HBO's Succession and House of the Dragon. There's also cooking shows like Chopped and Beat Bobby Flay, and even movies like The Lord of the Rings and Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Well, Max is the streaming destination that has the best of entertainment for whatever mood you're in anytime. And plans start at as little as $9.99 a month. Max, the one to watch. Subscription required. Visit max.com.
Looking for an adventure? Find yours in a Toyota truck. Like a Tacoma, the ultimate off-road machine. With available crawl control, you'll tackle anything in your way. Or an electrified Tundra with more power than ever before and a spacious high-tech cabin that puts you in charge. Or go with the legendary 4Runner, always reliable and durable over the toughest terrain. No matter your adventure, Toyota has you covered. Visit buyatoyota.com for more, and let's go places.
Hey, can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, so can your potential customers. Right here on your Odyssey station. You might be used to skipping social ads, but you are still listening to me right now. And so are your clients. To learn how to drive more business and how Odyssey can help get your message to your customers, visit stateofaudio.com. That's stateofaudio.com.